It's like the sound for open season, right?
Yeah.
So, my name is Craig Maloney. I am in love with the Logitech Sqeezebox. I think it's an absolutely amazing device. And I'll tell you a little bit of some of the secrets of this device. It's not necessarily apparent what it does offhand, but if by the end of this you are not completely ready to go out and purchase one, I'll have to check your pulse.
Uh-oh.
I'm in love with it just by the way it looks right now.
So
They got different colors too, by the way.
They do. They do.
They have black?
They have black. They have white. I think that's the only colors that they have right now.
No purple, huh?
No purple. But they do sell Crayon. So
Give one's blue. Give one's blue.
Light blue with white stripes to go with it.
There is spray paint.
Okay.
So what we'll cover is we'll cover a brief history of the platform, some of the different hardware devices that are out there, the server itself, which is running on Linux and also runs under Windows and Macintosh as well. How you can set it up tonight without necessarily having to make a trip over to Micro Center or buying it online. And we'll do a quick live demo on it as well. So, what is the problem that I have? Well, I have a bunch of CDs. This is not my CD collection.
It's like mine.
Probably very small compared to my CD collection, actually.
Really?
Looks like Gary's.
So, yeah, I like music. I am a huge music fan. Ever since I got a CD player, I became a regular over at Holland CD. I love music. But the problem is that there are scads of discs out there. And keeping it all in storage, it's a pain in the butt. Keeping it available. You know, if I want to listen to something at work, I have to pick out what I'm going to listen to at work and then, load it onto something. So we came up with different storage solutions. The Mega Storage 300, which I actually thought about purchasing, but I figured I'd have to get 3 of them, and that was just not.
That's one of those CD changers, right?
Yeah, that's one of those
300.
300. They came up with a 400, and that's when it started becoming a little reasonable. But
Yeah, I've seen jukeboxes built around them. Yeah.
So then we've come up with different technologies. You got iPods, so you can listen to stuff on your phone and that, but you got to come up with a docking solution for it. All those different types of MP3 players. I have an MP3 player. It's got 16 gigs on it, but that holds a portion of what I listen to during the day. And you got hard drive storage and cloud storage and all that other kind of stuff you can throw on a phone. Google Music, Amazon cloud storage. But I really don't like, putting all my stuff up online. It takes forever to get it up there, and then you have to worry about, okay, if Google all of a sudden decides that they no longer want to be in the music business, what happens to your stuff? Does it just go away? So I wanted something a little more permanent that I could control. So back in 2001, there was a little company called Slim Devices that came up with the original Sqeezebox. That's the I don't remember what exactly they called it offhand, but it is MP3 only. Doesn't do FLAC or anything like that, but it is still supported. The server, if you have one of these things, or if you manage to find one of these things online, you could use it tonight. It's pretty cool how they've kept a lot of the backward compatibility.
It almost looks like it was meant to be mounted in a dashboard on my car.
Yeah.
So they came up with some newer models. That one was only wired only, so it wasn't wireless. Some of the newer ones, the Sqeezebox 1 was an 802.11b, but it only has WEP, so caveat emptor. The Sqeezebox 2, which has got a silver tone to it instead of the gunmetal gray, is an 802.11g with WPA. That's probably, if you're going to set one of these up and you're looking for one, that would probably be the base model I'd go with. But there's also the Sqeezebox 3, which I actually picked up one. And the Sqeezebox 3 is pretty cool. They rebranded it as the Sqeezebox Classic. It's got a pretty large display on there, LED display. Really cool. It's got digital out on it as well, so if you are into any of the digital component stuff, all the different digital ways of getting it out there, optical versus coax, you can do that with that. That's the only model there that has digital out. The other two, I believe, are only RCA and earphone. Headphone. some recently discontinued models. They had the Sqeezebox Boom, which is it's the Sqeezebox Classic, but it is in this type of a chassis. It was kind of expensive. It was about $500.
Ooh,
and I don't
probably
think
because of the speakers they stuffed on it.
Yeah, I mean it was a decent model, but trust me, the newer models are a lot better. And this one doesn't run Linux or anything on there. The Duet does run Linux on that. Unfortunately, it was the first of its kind, so there's a few problems with it and how it works. You can find them pretty cheap on eBay. There's two components to it. You have the receiver component down here, which is where where you hook it up to your stereo, and then you have the controller component. You could use the controller component separately with all of the Sqeezebox stuff. It'll control every one of the Sqeezebox players from that controller. So if you manage to find one of those, it's probably a decent deal. They had some battery problems with it though, so beware.
Did it have a built-in battery or?
It has a built-in battery. It's not. It's unfortunately, not one of those things where you can throw in a couple extra batteries. So this one is the Sqeezebox radio. They call it the Baby Boom because it was, half the size of the Boom. It is a 400 megahertz ARM 9EJS. It is Linux-based. There's actually a BusyBox installation on there, which is pretty nifty. 64 megabytes of memory, 128 megabytes of flash memory, and it uses the Sqeezeplay. Now, the neat thing about the controller that I showed you previously is that it uses a program called Sqeezeplay to play all of its stuff on there, and it's Lua-based. So if you're into programming in Lua, if you know what Lua is, it's really interesting to see how they integrated an interface onto these things. The nice thing too about Sqeezeplay is that Sqeezeplay is cross-platform. So if you wanted to run it on Linux or Windows or Mac, you could do that as well with software. I've had problems with that under Linux. It hasn't worked quite well, but that may just be me as well. So there's also the Sqeezebox Touch, which is Sqeezeplay based. It's got a similar form factor to the Sqeezebox Classic. It's touch screen, which is really nice. If I had an extra $300 burning in my pocket, I probably would pick one up. It is able to play also independently of a server, so if you want to put a USB key on it, or if you want to put an SD card on it, it'll play off of those as well. You can't really see it too terribly well. It's got an Ethernet port, digital out, left and right RCA, and an earphone jack on there.
Is it wireless also?
It is wireless as well. Everything up until this point is wireless. I should say anything past the Sqeezebox, the original Sqeezebox, is wireless, and everything past the Sqeezebox 2 supports WPA and 802.11g. And if you have more money than brains, or if you like to put ferrite cores all through your house to make sure that your audio is awesome, we have the transporter. The transporter is about $1,000. It is a Sqeezebox. It's the older style Sqeezebox, but it has audiophile grade components in there. So if you measure your listening environment with a multimeter, this is the device for you. If you know what I'm talking about, there's some very crazy folks out there. There's also folks that hack this thing as well and put in different power supplies because they don't like the switching power supplies. They put in linear power supplies. The nice thing about this, if you use XLR jacks, it has XLR support as well. It also has digital out and such. And I think it also has XLR in as well. And over here it has a serial connector as well. So if you want to interface with that, if you want to hook up a console to it, you can do that. But as you'll see later, these things are very sweet. Talk briefly about the Sqeezebox server. It's written in Perl, which means it's multi-platform, which is awesome. It can control all of the Sqeezebox devices. I don't know if there's an upper limit to them. I've not run into it. I've got about 6 different devices, not all at the same time, but I've run with that, and it handles it beautifully. And it has a snazzy web-based front end as well. They're currently updating it. In fact, the thing just yelled at me that I got the old version of the Sqeezebox server. I think they put out a bug release. So I'll have to download that when I get home. So, what can it do? Well, it plays FLAC, MP3, and OGG. It plays it uncompressed for FLAC. And it plays the regular stream for MP3 and OGG as well. It can also handle non-DRM, AAC, and WMA files as well if you have those laying about. You can use it for internet radio stations. So if you listen to, let's say, WRCJ or something like that, you can listen to it via that device as opposed to using an FM tuner. Because I know around where we're at, I don't put an antenna on the FM tuner and I can't get it for anything in the world. There is support for local stations, so it will show you a list of all the stations that are available to you. Unfortunately, CBS Radio has decided to pull their local stations, so you won't get stuff like 104.3 or what's the other one that they got? There's another station. I think it's one of the 95.5 or 96.3. I don't remember which one it is. That also got pulled as well. It also handles live internet music services such as Spotify, Pandora, Live Music Archive, a whole bunch of them. You can also support SiriusXM via the internet streaming. It doesn't actually have an antenna built into it, so you'll have to use internet streaming in order to do that. And you'll need an account, of course, in order to do SiriusXM. And the internet, they have some special upgrade where you have to pay an extra $3 a month or something like that for internet streaming. It's kind of crazy, but there you go.
Yeah.
It also handles the BBC iPlayer, Classical FM, Soma FM, Sky FM, AccuRadio, TuneIn, digitally imported, Shoutcast, NPR, and tons more stuff on there. There's also MOG, I think is what they call it. That's that's some service. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not using it.
Robert.
It's a Scrobbler? Okay. They handle some podcasts. The interface is terrible. I won't lie. It is, you add the URL of the feed into it, and then it may or may not work, depending.
Sounds like G-Potter.
It's, yeah.
I think I saw,
G-Potter makes this look actually, G-Potter is nice in comparison.
I think I
I
also,
can't get, the Linux Link text show went down because just they had some difficulty.
Right.
So I took them out of my feed, and now they're back up, and I want to put them back in the feed, but G-Potter keeps telling me, it's not a feed.
Yeah.
Yes, it is feed.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yes?
I think I also saw on their website that they handle Last FM and
Yeah.
Slacker.
Yeah, they do. I mean, there's a ton of services that they support, most of which you will not use. I don't use them personally. I don't use any of the streaming. A lot of the streaming stuff. I'll use some FM and TuneIn.
I like Last FM.
It's all right. I had some difficulties with it because I listened to some kind of eclectic stuff. So you can also use it without a media server. So if you don't want to set up a server at home, and I don't think this is the crowd to put this as a selling point, but if you wanted to give it to your family and they don't necessarily want to have a server running all the time, there is a gigantic media server called mysqueezebox.com. You'll have to have an account on MySqueezebox in order to actually use this device. For some reason, they do some pairing on there. But what it does is it allows you, if your server somehow goes down, it still allows you to access the radio. You won't have access to your CDs or any other content that you have local. It doesn't do any of that type of stuff. And my personal favorite, I use it as an alarm clock in the morning. So if you want to have multiple alarms, if you want to, program your alarms from your couch, you can do that if you want. Check on your alarms. There is a bug with it if you wanted to do it for radio stations. There's a patch as well for it. But what happens is if it can't connect to the server, it has a backup alarm. So let's say you have a power outage or something like that, and you still need to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and your server is long since left the EPS. It will still wake you up in the morning, barring any. It has emergency measures. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
So it has an internal battery backup?
You can buy a battery for it. You get the accessory pack for this particular one, I should say. For this particular one, you have the accessory pack, and it gives you the battery, which is at the bottom here, and it gives you a small remote that you can use with it.
Because if your power's gone out and your server's not running, it's not running either.
Well, yeah, obviously. But yeah, you can also Scrabble via Last.fm, so if you want to upload all of the stuff that you listen to, if you want a central point of all the stuff you want to listen to, you can do that. You can integrate it with Facebook. I have no idea how it integrates with it. I don't use Facebook, so knock yourself out. It has flicker support on the touch, radio, and the duet. Obviously, it doesn't work very well on the LED models. I don't know how you would view pictures on there. But you can set it up so that, let's say you want to have it as a screensaver, or have a screensaver on there that uses flicker, so you'll show pictures of your contacts if you want. You can customize it pretty well as to what it will show on there, so it won't randomly show you all sorts of junk. There's even RSS headline readers on there, so if you want to read Slashdot, I think those are mostly work on the LED models. I've not set it up on there because it's kind of a small screen. I can't really read it from across the room. So, and the whole thing, best of all, is open source software. So if you want to write your own plugins for it, you can do so. There are certain commercial plugins that are available. Obviously, they're not going to give you stuff like how to decode SiriusXM stuff, or there's some playlist stuff that the guy has a license manager because he wants to get paid for it. But other than that, the whole entire ecosystem is open source. So it's Perl, it's Lua based. You can hack around on it. The older models, I don't know how you would handle flashing it or something like that. So if you wanted to put some custom firmware in there, I don't know how you would do it. I'm sure if you asked though, they wouldn't say no. They would probably show you how to do it. And while we're talking about players, there is the Sqeezeplay software, which I alluded to earlier. That's the official Logitech player. So if you want to do, if you go to the Logitech site, you can download the Sqeezeplay. Again, it's Lua based. It's the same software that's running on all of the more modern players, like the radio and the touch and the duet. And it's pretty slick. It's a pretty slick interface. Definitely check it out. There's also what I'm running on here, which is called Sqeezeslave.
Could you explain what Lua is, just because I've never heard of that?
Lua is scripting, programming / scripting language.
Like Java, JavaScript, C,
okay.
C++.
Yeah. And so this is running Sqeezeslave right now. It's a C and C++ program. You can use it as a daemon or as ncurses display. I'm using it in an ncurses display right now.
There's no X for it?
I'll get to a different one that does use X, but this one uses ncurses, and the nice thing is you can put it in daemon mode and just run it off of the web interface and not have to worry about it. So if you have like a machine that you want to run headless, but it does have audio support, you can run it that way. I personally like Sqeezeslave. Yeah, go ahead.
So this now you've turned this into just an internet radio. This is just going to receive and play a stream from your Sqeezebox server.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a great use for that.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm so happy about it. There's also a Java-based one called Soft Squeeze. There's an MP3 plugin that you can download optionally. They recommend it. I've not personally had to use it because there's an MP3 support built into it. It's just not quite as good, I guess. It's good enough. It mimics the classic style interface to a T. It is absolutely perfect. It's spot on for how it interfaces with this stuff. So much so that if you wanted to do a search, for a particular artist, you can't necessarily type in, I want to search for this particular artist on the keyboard. No, instead you have to use these number keys over here, which use the familiar phone style entry method. On an actual remote, it makes sense. On that, not so much. But it's also kind of a pain in the butt. I've had some problems with it on certain streams. It does do a lot of buffering, so it can get itself it can get its knickers in a bunch pretty easily.
But the N-Curses one works better, you think?
I think the N-Curses one works a heck of a lot better. And it too supports the interface. And two, you have to type in, if you wanted to do a search, you have to do the phone key type thing. But
For the N-Curses one?
for the N-Curses one, well, use a numeric keypad for it. It's crazy how it works. But they're more trying to do the interface of the Sqeezebox rather than, it's kind of crazy. Did I mention that this is all open? Because if you wanted to create your own player, they show you how to do the protocol. They show you how to handle the command line interface, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth later. So if you wanted to telnet to your server, you could do so. If you want to send a button command to one of the devices, you can. It's pretty slick how it can work.
Now you have to use Telnet, you can't use SSH?
On the local server, you have to use Telnet. They don't support SSH. On the radio, it supports SSH. Because it's Linux. And if you SSH to your Sqeezebox radio, this is what shows up. And I'll read it so for those people who can't read it. This network device is for authorized use only. Authorized or improper use of the system may result in you hearing very bad music. If you do not consent to these terms, log off immediately. Ha! Only joking. Now that you've logged in, feel free to change your root password using the PASSWD command. You can safely modify any of the files on the system. A factory reset, press and hold, add on, power on, will remove all your modifications and revert to the installed firmware. And you can see it's got 2.6.26.8-RT6 kernel on there, preventive. So it's pretty slick. So here's how I've got my home machine set up. Over on this end, this is at home. I have the Sqeezebox server right here on my desktop. On my local machine, I can have it set up with Sqeezeslave.
You want a laser point?
No, I'm fine, thanks. And over the Wi-Fi at home, I have a Sqeezebox Classic and I have a Sqeezebox Radio. The neat thing is, over the internet, I can use Sqeezeslave over an SSH tunnel. So let's say I'm at work, and work is, work. And I want to listen to music. How I have it set up is I have it set up so that the server will transcode my FLAC files and my streams and such to 128 kilobit per second MP3 file, send it over the network so I'm not bogging down my network and or work's network, and put it onto a local Sqeezeslave instance at work. So I can listen to my entire library, all of my radio streams, anything that I listen to at home, I can listen to at work just at a lower quality. That's what makes it really slick for me.
So, is that going to a certain port, or is that something?
Well, I have an SSH tunnel set up so that it goes to ports 9000 and 3483. You have to have 9000 because that's the actual stream, and then the 3483 is the control port on there.
Via SSH.
Via SSH, that's how I've got it set up.
But you can't SSH into the server.
You can't SSH to the server, but you can SSH. I mean, I have my local machine that has SSH on it, but the Sqeezebox server itself doesn't support SSH. They don't have its certificates or any other kind of stuff.
9000, isn't that the port used by HP printers?
No.
That's 9100.
Yep.
9100. Okay.
Yes.
So let's do a quick little demo. Show you how awesome this thing is. So I have. You can see I've got my, this is what's called Happy Radio at home. And these are the artists that I have loaded up here. I got a whole bunch of Magneton music on here. And a whole bunch of MP3 files as well. So let's do. I'm trying to find something that's not.
So, are,
Anything in the classic punk genre will work fine.
Classic punk?
Oh, Ramones. If you have Ramones on there, especially.
No, this is a band. I'm gonna turn this down a bit.
Is that okay for you, Matt?
That's good stuff. Sounds so far, yeah.
So this is the squeeze slave that's running on this particular machine here.
And where are we streaming from? Your house or your laptop?
This is streaming from my laptop. This is all local to the laptop. I've got the server is running on this laptop here. Now let's say I want to. Okay. I think this one. I picked the wrong Ethernet cord for this.
I have an entire bag full of joy.
That's all right. It's because I moved it. All right, so this is playing Sebastian Forster. And let's say Happy Radio, let's have you play something else. So it's supporting two different players at the same time. Now, let's see. Actually, I'd rather have them both listening to the same thing at the same time.
like quadraphonic, huh?
What's that?
Like quadraphonic.
Yes.
So from one interface, you could make every receiver in the whole house play the same thing.
Exactly. So it allows you to synchronize those. It does get a little off though sometimes with the software players, but it will correct itself. Okay. So it's like I said, it supports, and you can have all of them synchronized at the same time. If you so chose. Let's get to some of the nitty gritty here. So I have everything going here to the Logitech folder. And this, which is right here. And this I have a music folder. Which I have
Now, is that two folders? One named Music and one named Purchase from Ubuntu One?
Yes. This is where I can set up different things for the radio. So you can see I can set the name of it and reset its preferences. I can set the alarm clock. I don't have any alarms set on this particular machine. You can set up crossfade. So let's say you want to make sure that your live albums sound like they were one continuous stream. You can do that. If you want to set up volume adjustment, you can do so as well. Set up your bitrate limiting, which is what I use for my Sqeezebox at work. I have a separate MAC address for that. Each Sqeezebox defaults to all zeros for the MAC address, or I think it's all zeros and one for the last one. So if you want to have different Sqeezebox do different things, just set the MAC address. So I've got the one at work set for 8. We won't handle that. If you have two of these radios and you want stereo sound, they have it set up so that one will synchronize the left channel and one will synchronize the right channel, which is kind of interesting. I don't have Last FM set up on here, so don't worry about that. And synchronization, you can set up, let's say you have a digital, a DAC, digital analog converter. You can, and it takes, that it takes about a half a second for it to finally get the stream all set up and that. And you know that you're going to be a half second off every time. You can set up how long it takes for the player to delay on there. So it will handle a lot of those kind of quirky things that you have with your own audio system. different ways to display your music. This is set up with my Sqeezebox account on there. And you can tell it, you know, I want to report statistics. No, I don't want to report statistics. I usually keep that off. This is usually a little more, actually for the web interface, this is pretty, I pretty much leave this as standard. Let's talk about some plugins. Because this is where the magic really happens. Or at least that's happening. So you can have it set up where if you want to take a look at the Amazon store from the Sqeezebox, you can do so. There's app galleries, classical.com, command line. If you want to turn that off, let's say you don't want people to tell that to your machine, you can do so. Different controller customizations. Here's where you set up your Flickr stuff. Favorites. So if you wanted to say put a favorite, I use that for all the radio streams. You can set it up so that it'll be part of your favorites on there as well. You've got things like image browsing, so if you wanted to put pictures on your local machine, you can to view on here, you can do that. A bunch of different internet radio directories, which I'll show in a bit. MediaFly, if you want to listen to podcasts via MediaFly, you can do that. Napster, if they're still around. Rhapsody, Slacker, and Sirius XM Radio. Spotify, TuneIn. There's different screensavers. There's iTunes integration as well. So if you have an iTunes library and you want to integrate it, you can do that. Bunch of different things for Boom specific stuff, screensaver. XPL interfaces. I don't know if any of you use XPL, which is kind of like X10 for TCP/IP, but you can control this device and have this device control other devices over XPL as well. And there's a bunch of third-party plugins as well, BBC iPlayer, lazy searching. I think that looks like T9. That's kind of neat. Access to the Slim Devices forums as well from that device if you so choose. And there's actually a bunch more than this. I'm not seeing a whole bunch of them. But that's the plugins. These are some of the more advanced features you can have set up with the command line interface. And you can set the port if you so choose. Let's say you have something at 9090 already, you want to put it somewhere else, you can do that. Different customizations. You can disable certain audio file extensions. Let's say you have a directory and you have some WMA files, but that was a much crazier time in your college years and you don't want those playing. You can disable that way. So, I should go in here more often. Formatting. SFM audio scrobbling, different ways of logging, so the network gives you. So if you want to set up a web proxy for some of the web accessibility, you can do so. You can set the web server on a different port, although I'm not sure how you would. I'm not sure how you would get the other devices to work off of that. They still have to be on 34 and E3. Set up different timeouts, limits on WMA streaming. If you want to set up UPnP, you can do so. Like I said, there's very little this thing won't do except for video. And it uses, under the hood, it used to use MySQL, and now it uses SQLite instead, so you don't have to set up a separate MySQL server in order to run it. You can set it for automatic scanning of your music library. You so choose. And how it gets RSS, security. If you want to set up a password on the server, you can do so. So it's really customizable from this end. Now, help. Usually help is pretty garbage on most applications. The beauty about this one is that it gives you access to community forums, the remote controls. So let's say you want to figure out how to use the remote, what each of these particular buttons mean. The remote controls, just for those playing at home, it can be compatible. They used to use a JVC DVD player remote. So if you have one of those, there's a switch for the older models to say whether you wanted to use those codes or not. So that is an option for you. And remote streaming, they give you instructions on how to stream. So let's say you have a device that doesn't necessarily have a Sqeezebox server on there, but you want it, or a Sqeezebox client on there, but you still want to be able to stream from it. Let's say it's a Barnes & Noble Nook, and you want to stream to it. You can send the device to go to localhost:9000/stream.mp3, and it will then play that stream. You won't be able to control it from that device, unfortunately, but you will be able to listen to it. The only problem with that is that most of the devices that are out there give you about 20 seconds of buffer on there. So you're about 20 seconds off. So if you hit pause on it, it's going to take 20 seconds for that thing to flush out. But it is an option for devices that aren't supported quite yet. The beauty is that if you have an Android phone or an iPhone and don't mind paying a little money, you could use those as Sqeezebox clients. There are client software for them. I think the one is SqueezePlay for Android, and that's $5.29. The one for Apple is IPENG, and there's a few more for Apple as well. But that's the one that I used when I had an iPhone, and it was pretty nice. The only downside is that you paid for the controller app, and then you had to pay an additional in-app purchase in order to get the playback. So it was a little more expensive. It was like, I don't remember how much it was offhand. It was like $5 or something like that for the playback and $10 for the application itself. But if you want to have a wireless controlled Walkman, that's the way to go. And not done with it yet. Technical information. Now, most of the time with help, you don't get a whole lot of really good help on here. If you wanted to set up different artwork on here, you could. Here's how to get access to the remote control on there. So if you wanted to do it via the web, you could do so. Command line interface. So this has got pretty much everything there is. We'll talk about the command line interface. And let's do that real quick.
So you can't really use Telnet across the internet. You wouldn't want to have that.
No, you would definitely not want to have this exposed.
And you can just go and download the Sqeezebox software.
Yeah, you can download the Sqeezebox software. It's available on Logitech's site, and the SqueezePlay. Yeah, the SqueezePlay software is available on Logitech's, and the SqueezeSlave is available on Google Code and SourceForge. The downloads are hosted on SourceForge, and the code's available on Google Code. So, let's see if I can get this page actually. questions while I'm stalling for time?
Yeah, so digital rights management. Is
Yes.
there? So I know some people are like, super hyper controlling and all that stuff, and I see you've got lots of music onto a device, and I'm just wondering, is that gotten easier or something?
Well, I don't use any services that really have digital rights management on their files. So they most of them have gotten away from that because they've learned that people don't buy digital rights encumbered music, and they get really upset when you take away the digital rights servers like Walmart did with their stuff, because all of a sudden people didn't have access to their music. So I use services like Amazon. I use the Ubuntu One music store as well. Magnatune, Jamendo, Bandcamp, those are all DRM free.
Yeah, well, Jamendo, because that's all Creative Commons stuff
Exactly.
too.
Well, I do a Creative Commons show too, so.
Oh, do you really?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the URL of your Creative Commons show?
That would be openmetalcast.com, where you can hear Creative Commons licensed metal music. Well, I'm not figuring it out right off the top of my head how to do this. All right, I'm not going to waste my time looking at this. Let me get out of this. But it is possible, again, to control everything directly from there. There's also, I alluded to XPL. There's an interface available for it. Now, does anybody here use XPL at all?
What is XP?
It's a home automation protocol over the internet.
Oh, like X10 kind of?
Yeah, exactly. Except it uses TCP/IP and UDP instead. So they have 3 different profiles. They have the basic profile, which allows you basic control of the server, so you can play, stop, volume, etc. And then there's slim serve extensions to that, which allows you to do any of the commands that can be performed by the command line interface. And then there's remote basic, which gives you the button commands as though you were pressing on a remote control. And then there's OSD basic, which allows you to change the display on the devices as well. So, like I said, these are really, really powerful devices. It's fully Linux. Let's see if I can get access to this. Can you give me an idea or not? Am I gonna have to guess? I'm gonna have to guess.
What your IP address is?
What the IP of this is.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
a nice
open.
melodic tune.
Cool.
More into the classic punk one. That was a famous song.
He's not telling me what the IP address is. That's a bummer.
Is he getting his IP address from the server on your machine?
No, it's from the HCP.
But so if you could tell me its MAC address, did it get it from me?
They got it from whatever.
From my DHCP server.
It might be, yeah.
Okay,
Maybe that.
then here, hang on, let me get into the. Got it? Okay.
Alright, so it is.
Would it be Squeezebox Radio? Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
10.0.3.106.
Yep. Okay, so I'm on this box.
Okay, whose machine's named Troll?
Troll,
Troll.
Not mine.
not mine.
Okay, somebody's machine's named Troll.
So, as you can see, it's a straight busy box environment.
No idea.
My machine.
Alright, we'll see who complains that they've lost their internet connection.
Certainly not me.
It's me.
Alright, thank you. I was about to boot your internet connection.
You troll.
We also have Puppy PC. What would that be?
Oh, wait a minute, you also run Puppy, don't you?
I have a Puppy PC once and a Puppy PC twice with 2 different IP addresses. And 2 different Macs. Oh no, wait. Same Mac address, but for some reason... Oh no, you have the same IP address in both listings. I don't know why you did that. Why did you listen twice? And Scudder? Who's Scudder?
That's this. So, I don't know if you've ever had the privilege of diagnosing your alarm clock, but you do have the ability with the Sqeezebox to take a look at the log files on there.
And why your alarm went on for 10 minutes?
Exactly. So
Right up.
this morning, or when I was having trouble with it, trying to figure out why it wasn't going to WRCJ, I actually could go on here and look at the logs, post the logs up on the Slim Device forums, which are available, which are extremely helpful. There's some really, really talented folks on there that know what the heck they're doing and really love this hardware platform. And gave me a patch to fix it. It was something to do with the Perl timer code in there. The server was sending out the message and it wasn't getting what it wanted at the right time, so this was falling back. Anyways, you can see it's gone back to the screensaver. Well, we're going to hit play again. Switch volumes here. I should show you what I'm doing here. I change what I'm listening to.
Now, if you have it separate, can you separate like by genre,
You can.
so that it would make it just easier to use the limited control like that? So you could then scroll through the genre, find the genre, and then enter that, and then scroll through the albums, and then enter that.
Well,
you know what I
or
mean?
I could just go here. And if I say, I want to listen to, Jive Ass Sleepers.
Okay, so it's easier then just to log into the interface on the server
It
and
depends.
do it.
I mean, if you're in your living room and you want to, fiddle, and your computer's, far away, you're not going to go into the other room just so you can listen to music. You just sit here and say, okay, what am I doing here? Or if I want to listen to, my preset is not in there. If you're sitting in front of it, then it makes sense. Play it this way. If I want to say, okay, I want instrumental music, and classical sophomore James. And the other thing too is that the web interface is also synchronized as well. So if I'm at home and I want to see, if my wife happens to be listening to music, I can see, okay, she's listening to music.
So you can F with it.
If I wanted
Okay.
to. I wouldn't necessarily do that. I enjoy my marriage.
Oh, I would. I've been married for 25 years and I do it. I'd have like preloaded audio files so I could like send her messages like, "Hey, call me. I'll be home in a half an hour." I just make that play.
We could do that. If you wanted.
Uh,
So I guess, are there any
Wouldn't that be
questions about this? Thoughts, comments?
yeah, it's pretty
I'm
cool.
curious on the updates for it, as far as the OS and all of that. That is just done just,
There's a Debian file that I've installed, so I go and I download the Debian file and install that.
And then
Okay.
use something like GDebi or something to install it.
Or just DPKG.
Depackage.
okay.
For this, it will pull off of whatever server it's hooked up to.
Okay.
This is complaining because I haven't updated the server on this machine. So that's why it's saying, oh, I've got new firmware. It's like, no, you don't. You've got the latest. Shut up. But yeah, it'll pull the latest firmware off of the server, whichever server it's hooked up to, whether it's my Sqeezebox or your local server.
Now, I just don't listen to enough different stuff to do this. I would never do this, but so the Telnet interface, you don't want to expose it to the internet.
Generally not, yeah.
Yeah, well, just because it's all clear. It's all in the clear.
Mm-hmm.
How would you access your home server? And maybe I was working on something because I was doing some work while
You could, what you could do, there's several ways of doing it. I use SSH because I just want one port, and I use everything by SSH. So you use an SSH tunnel in order to do that. What the tunnel does is...
Yeah, I know how to set up an SSH
Okay.
tunnel. So I can SSH into the box, but I don't get the interface via SSH.
No, you wouldn't get the interface, but what you would do is you'd set up a tunnel on this local machine. Let me see if I can set it up real quick. I'll show you my home machine.
Decaf bad.
Mm. Oh, come on. Okay. So what I do is I have a proxy command set up that sets up some tunnels. And the ones that are really important out of this are the 9000 and the 3483 tunnels.
Now, which one does the web interface live on?
The web interface lives on 9000.
So you could access the web, and is the web interface HTTPS or HTTP?
It's HTTP. It's
So
not
you-
HTTPS.
you can't-
You'd have to put another server in front of it in order to do HTTPS. Some proxy attack. Let me turn this server off.
So that shouldn't be exposed to the internet either, then. The web interface.
Generally not. I mean, you could. I think it's secure enough. I wouldn't make that bet though.
Well, if it's only via HTTP, every time you log in, your password and username are going over the wire plain text.
Right. But like I said, I think you can proxy it or something like that behind another server and go at it that way. So if you don't want to use SSH, there are ways to expose it by the internet. And they even give you instructions on how to expose your system relatively securely over the internet.
Again, this is all esoteric questions because I'm
No,
really
that's
not
fine.
going to do it.
I figured this is the esoteric So, this is my home machine. The Sqeezebox Classic is called Beatbox. It's going to take a little while for it to load. It's a slow connection.
Now, everything is stored on that server? All your music is there?
All my music is on there. All of my favorites. which are all different radio stations like Groove Salad, Delicious Agony. All of
Now,
those
can it
ones.
play? Like I listen to WDR. That's not the right call letters. 1400 AM, and you can listen to them on the internet.
Let me check, because you have this selection here for local internet or local radio stations.
WDRK, is it DRK? I don't remember their call letters. It's
Well, it'll show you the numbers.
Okay, it's 1400 on the AM dial.
That's one over.
Yeah, right there, WDDK, that's it.
Yep. Yeah, so you could listen to that remotely. You can put it as a favorite.
Because
if you
to
want.
listen to them, like I listen to them on my computer, but they have like a Java applet that pops up that it plays in, so I didn't know
Yeah.
if it would work via the screen.
Yeah, no, they have most of the radio stations. Like I said, the only ones that don't really do it are the CBS stations, which are 104.3. Oh, they did put 950 back up. That wasn't there before.
So this is live now. This update's live. Like if 950 really wasn't there, it wouldn't be on the list.
Well, let's see here. Yeah, so that's playing at home. Let me,
Oh, you could listen to Glenn Hagee.
if I so chose. There's one other one. Huh, anyways. So yeah, they pulled 104.3 off of this list. But like I said, all the rest of them are available. They also have police and fire as well
Now that would be
on the
good.
internet. So if you want to listen to the Canadian stuff, you can as well.
But not everybody does their police and fire. They'd have to have an internet stream.
Yes.
And I would wonder why you would want your police and fire radio happen to have an internet stream. If I were a municipality, I would not have my police and fire.
No, so
internet
there's a
stream.
lot of safety precautions. That now you can
Yeah.
broadcast and be aware of problems with, bad behavior in the neighbor, that type of thing.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, well, I'm gonna shut down here. I've got to get going. So.
I have one.